When you find two believers who have very divergent results, classically speaking, there are two factors that may be responsible for that disparity. Number one, it can be the election of grace. There are people whose results is not necessarily completely a product of their prayer or fasting or yieldedness. Certain possibilities just came as part of the packages of their call. That's why we do not boast. The election of grace can determine certain possibilities, but it only accounts for about 20%. I can tell you that. Over 80% of the disparity in results is the difference in the weight of glory. So that you don't leave an excuse and say, I knew it. I always knew that my own is because my call is not true. If you are not carrying the weight of glory, I'm telling you, you minus 20 from 80%. A good student can fail 20% and still score A. A lazy student can give an excuse and say it's because they deducted 20%, that's why he got F. What of the remaining 80? You see how lazy sometimes believers can be? So just because there is the election of grace, the election of grace just gives you about 20%, honestly, more advantage than the average believer. And the 20% is simply for the work's sake. That's it. I give you an example. A gentleman who, because of the inclination of his prophetic call, even before praying, even before fasting, are we together? From a baby, he began to see. How do you explain that? It's an election of grace. It says, from whence thou were in your mother's womb, before thou camest forth, I called you and I ordained you to be a prophet. So you would find young Jeremiah seeing things already. It was not because he did anything. An example, hearing the voice of God as baby Samuel. He did not listen to 5 principles of hearing the voice of God, pressing in prayer and fasting. He was just a baby who was ordained to be a prophet. So there are times that certain possibilities in the kingdom just come as the blessing of an election of grace. But I can tell you that only accounts for about 20%. Meaning, even if you enjoy the advantage of the election of grace and you don't press to carry certain weights of glory, you will still fail. Is someone learning? Praise the name of the Lord. How many of you have written exams where they gave you maybe 6 questions, and maybe, for instance, not a good analogy, but let's assume that maybe one of the questions was wrongly put, and because of that they say, okay, you know what, we're giving all of you bonus for that question, and there are still people who will get 0. What does that mean? That means whether or not the bonus was given, they were still going to fail the remaining after all. Are you getting the point now? That's how many believers are. So it doesn't really matter whether you have election of grace or not, you are already intrinsically unserious with the issue of the weight of glory. But this analogy minus you, in the name of Jesus Christ.